This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Nick Ferrari at breakfast.
Good morning to you. 3 minutes after 7 on Wednesday, the 28th of September, and coming to you from the Labour Party conference in Liverpool, where it was addressed by the party leader, Sir Keir Starmer, who touched on so many things: the cost of living crisis, immigration and Ukraine. And in his keynote speech in Liverpool, he even addressed the SNP yesterday.
For them, Scotland's success in the UK is met with gritted teeth. We can't work with them. We won't work with them. No deal under any circumstances.
In other news, the global lender, the IMF, tells the government you must reverse the tax cuts. We'll give you full details on that. 19 days of Royal Mail strike action. Dave Ward, General Secretary of the relevant union, speaking at the conference.
Solidarity to all strike.
Plus, the ramifications of the mini-budget from last week continue. Here's the Bank of England Chief Economist Hugh Pill speaking at an event in London.
I think it's hard not to draw the conclusion that all this will require a significant monetary policy response. Let me leave it there.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Nick Ferrari at breakfast on LBC.
And who better to start our coverage from the Labour Party conference than the man himself, the Labour leader, Sir Keir Starmer, who's at the studio we have in Liverpool. Well, I have to start with congratulations. I felt things were going well when I got off the train. I arrived at the hotel and I was hugged by Ed Miliband. Now, that normally means things are going rather well. Congratulations. Is the party running on rails, Sir
Good
Keir?
morning, Nick. I'm just trying to get that image in my mind of you and Ed Miliband clasping each other in the hotel. But look, this conference has been different, and I think everybody who's been here has been saying this for the last few days. This is a confident Labour Party that's done a lot of hard work in the last 2 years to change our party, remake our party, and people are now looking to the Labour Party for the answers to the very difficult questions that are out there. So this is a Labour Party that can confidently look the electorate in the eye, and the electorate are looking back at the Labour Party. It's the most united, confident Labour Party we've seen for many, many years. And that's not just me saying it, that's practically everybody here, including those that aren't party members. They can feel something in the air. And what they're feeling in the air, I think, is change, because obviously the government we've got has made an absolute mess of the economy. And here you've got a Labour Party calmly, carefully and with confidence setting out alternative plans for our economy and for our public services.
Referencing the economy, I don't know yet if you've had sight of some of the newspapers. The front page of one, the Daily Telegraph, Sir Keir, reverse the tax cuts, the IMF, this is the International Monetary Fund, urging Liz Truss and Chancellor Kwasi Kwarteng to reverse the decision to abolish the top rate of income tax of the IMF. A reaction to that, Sir Keir?
Well, I think the IMF statement is very serious, and it shows just what a mess the government have made of the economy. And it's self-inflicted. This was a step they didn't have to take. Quite often when the markets are jittery, when the pound falls, it's because of some international event, conflict in Ukraine, a cost of living crisis, energy crisis. This is self-inflicted by the government. And I think that reflecting on that, because I know, and I heard on this programme just a few moments ago, so many people with mortgages will be really worried by what's going on, because they know what this means for their budget. Prices are going up. That's we all look at the graph and we see the pound falling, but it's not an abstract graph. This is reflected in people's mortgages, etc. And people are very, very worried this morning. Their mortgages are going up. Some people who thought they had a mortgage arrangement last week now haven't got one. I mean, imagine that, a first-time buyer, and suddenly your dream goes up. I think the government's got to respond to this. They've got to set out in terms how are they going to fix the problems that they have made. At the moment, they're suggesting they might be doing something in November. That's far too long off. They've got to review the plans they put out on Friday. They've got to do it urgently, in my view.
Let's talk a little about some of the promises we heard from you yesterday, Sir Keir. 19 million homes to be insulated, more NHS staff, business rates to be axed. Where's the cash coming from?
Nick, for all of our announcements, where there's new money, we've explained exactly where that's coming from. Where it's switch money, so we're switching from one thing to another, we've explained where the switch is coming from. So we haven't made a single announcement of spending without being clear about where that money is coming from, because The rules that we set for ourselves a year ago were that we would pay for day-to-day spending and we would borrow to invest, and we intend to stick to those rules. Obviously, we're going to inherit a real mess if and when we come into government.
But they're all costed.
But they're all costed.
They're all costed. OK. Yesterday, you pledged this new Great British Energy Company supplier. Your Shadow Transport Secretary said Labour in power will bring railways back into public ownership. Is Labour now the party of nationalisation?
Nick, I've always said on this that I'm not ideological. I look at the practicalities. Is it better to have public ownership of some of these entities or not? Sometimes we've said, yes, that works. Sometimes we've said no. For Great British Energy, what we're doing is saying, look, there is the potential for a huge amount of jobs and money coming in through jobs that will be created by going to renewables, whether that's tidal, solar, wind power, nuclear even. And at the moment, I think to the frustration of many people, the money that is made out of those sectors goes to other countries. So the biggest onshore farm in Wales is owned by Sweden. The Chinese Communist Party owns part of our nuclear industry, and I think it's 5 million people are paying their energy bills to a company that's owned by France. Well, I think that should be paid into a common British fund, if you like, so that we reap the benefit of that.
But will it go for, the water industry, would you look at that?
No, at the moment we've set out rail, because every time rail has gone out to the private sector, it's ended up coming back into the public sector, and it's in the public sector now. And Great British Energy as a forward look. Now, this will be operated as an independent company, so there will be, it won't be government diktat, but it will be the rewards of the investments.
No more nationalisation after that.
Will come in. Well, Nick, I'm not ideological. Look at things practically. If it makes sense for Britain and it means that we reap the rewards, then that is something I'll look at. But we're not going to nationalise for the sake of nationalising.
Coming back to the money side, you've said you'd reintroduce the top rate tax of 45%. Would you ever look at a wealth tax?
We're looking at how we tax fairly. On wealth, I'm looking at whether and how we tax all different forms of income. Some people obviously earn their income through a wage. Other people earn it through stocks and shares and dividends. And we're looking at what is a fair way to tax all income wherever it comes from. But that's a review.
Can I call that a wealth tax?
No, it's not really a wealth tax because it's looking at
if it's not a wealth tax, what is it?
It's looking at different forms of income. It's stocks and shares and dividends.
OK. How much was your parade rained on by the disobliging comments from your former Labour Party colleague Rupert Huck?
Well, look, let me immediately say that what she said, in my view, was racist, it was wrong, and she's been suspended from the whip in the party, and that was done very, very quickly. I think that tells you how strongly I feel about those comments. She shouldn't have said it. She will be dealt with, and I'll be absolutely clear it was racist. But
was that your personal decision, Sir Keir, to suspend the whip?
No, it's not my personal decision, but it's a decision I absolutely agree with.
When you say dealt with, what does that mean? What are the possibilities, Sir Keir?
Well, now there'll be an investigation, and I don't know what the outcome of that will be, but there'll be an investigation by the party. But it was very important, in my view, that we acted swiftly, made absolutely clear that it was unacceptable. I'm pleased we did that. Obviously, in the scheme of the last few days, where it's been very, very confident and buoyant here in Liverpool, it was, something I, deeply regret. But I'm glad that we acted quickly.
Is there a way back for her?
Well, that's not a decision for me, Nick. But
would you want to see her back?
I think that comment was racist, and I'm very glad the Labour Party acted as swiftly as it did.
Can we move to other issues? One thing that seems to have bedeviled the Conservative administration is the problems of the migrant crossing or concerning immigration. You talk about a points plan. Isn't that what we've had from the Conservatives, Sir Keir?
Well, a points-based immigration approach is something actually that the Labour Party introduced when they were in power last.
Doesn't seem to be working.
Well, it was put in place by the last Labour government. I think it can work if it's based on the skills and the jobs that we need with different points for those skills and those jobs. I think the migrant crossings is different because obviously that's outside of the immigration system. What frustrates me about that is that whilst Priti Patel, now obviously not in post, was making all sorts of statements about what she would do, there were then suggestions that the money was going to come out of the National Crime Agency. That's the agency that can work upstream to deal with the smugglers that are bringing people to the north coast of France. I desperately want that work to be done, because by the time you get to the north coast of France, it's very late in the journey. The work needs to be done upstream, and the National Crime Agency is the agency that can, with others, do that work. So, I would put my money in the National Crime Agency to actually tackle the smuggling upstream.
Can you give an idea of where you'd want to see numbers, what way do you want to see the numbers come down to?
On immigration?
Yes, on immigration, sorry.
Generally. Look, under a points-based system, you don't have numbers. It's not a numbers game. You have points for the skills that you need, and we'll set that out if and when we get into government.
You rightly reference the fact that people are very concerned about their mortgages. Do you have a mortgage? And
I do.
How concerned are you?
Well, I am concerned because we're on a variable...
Have you been able to buy your house, or have you got a mortgage?
No, we've got a mortgage. Like millions of other people, we're on a variable mortgage, and therefore, like lots of other people, our outgoings have gone up pretty significantly.
How much have they gone up by? Do you mind my asking?
A few £100s, as I'm sure it have for other people.
I mean, for a lot of people, respectfully, you can probably make it. A lot of people can't.
Yeah, no, I'm not pleading a special case on my behalf, but, our outgoings have gone up. But for a lot of people, that hugely matters. And I spoke to my sister last night. She's a care worker, as I think you know, Nick.
Yes, I do.
She's really struggling. She's just got her bill in her case, her energy bill, and she's really struggling. She's got just a small amount of money left in the bank, and she's, in a high state of anxiety. And that's just an example of what it's like for many, many people, whether it's the mortgage, whether it's prices. And what makes people, I think, really angry is this is self-inflicted. This is a government that went out on Friday without the usual checks and balances, OBR statements, etc., made reckless decisions that had an immediate effect on the market. And that's not something which just us politicians talk about as part of the to and fro of politics. It's many, many families now feeling, now my mortgage has gone up, now my prices have gone up, my wages aren't going up, and this was already a bad situation. It's causing high anxiety, and they've lost control of the economy. And as I said in my speech yesterday, for what? What is this done for? It's done so they can give tax breaks to the people at the very, very top. That is so, so unacceptable.
Last question, because I know you're busy. You've mentioned the fact that in your speech, that you remember the telephone bill being cut off at your family home. You now, of course, been a former barrister. What class are you?
Well, Nick, I'm firmly working class background. My dad worked in a factory.
Indeed.
My mum, as you know, was a nurse.
I do.
And, we struggled with the bills. That's why the phone was cut off. And the phone was cut off because we didn't want the other utilities cut off. It was easy to cut off the phone, frankly, than the other utilities. Now, I don't know what class I'd put myself in, but my background informs
But you're
me
upper middle class, aren't you?
Nick, I don't spend time saying which class I'm in. But what I was trying to get through yesterday in my speech is that if you come from a working class background, aspiration means everything. And for my parents, whatever the ups and downs, whether they always made ends meet, whether at the end of their working lives they felt they'd got everything they wanted, they were comforted by the knowledge that for their children there was a better chance. And somehow we've lost that in the last 10, 12 years under this government. And, for working class people, that makes a huge, huge difference, because every family wants their children, the next generation, to get on better chances than they had. And we need to restore that in Britain.
Appreciate your time. Do come to the studios again soon and do a call, Keir. We've missed you.
Yes, I'll do that.
Let's do it whilst Arsenal are still at the top. How does that...
Better be next week.
Better get in quick. Sir Keir Starmer appearing here on LB 17 after 7. Let's get the latest headlines.
Sir Keir Starmer has told LBC the IMF's warning to the UK following the mini-budget is very serious and shows what a mess the government has made of the economy. The Labour leader also says MP Rupa Huq's comments about the Chancellor